I'd like to study Mirz Hashem together today. One pasuk in Parshat Toldot. It's a very famous pasuk. It's a pasuk that raises a lot of questions among the Mefarshim. And today I'd like to take almost like a survey view of many different approaches of understanding this pasuk with the mind's eye on being what lessons can we derive from the approaches, and not just information of this approach or that approach, but to see what we can gain and glean in terms of our own avodas Hashem. Pasuk is found toward the beginning of the Parsha, when the Pasuk tells us in source 1, Kaf Hey, Kaf Chet, Vayahav Yitzchak et Esav ki tzayid befiv, and Yitzchak loves Esav for his catch was in his mouth, V'Rivka ohevet et Yaakov, and Rivka loves Yaakov. And as Rashi points out, noted the ArtScroll Stone Chumash, source 3, from the age of 13, the essential differences became apparent. With Esav turning to idols and Yaakov going to study hall, Esav became a hunter. But not only in the literal sense, he became adept at trapping his father by asking questions that would make him appear to be unusually pious. He would ask, for example, how tithes should be taken from salt and straw, although he knew full well that they were not obligated for tithes. And he gained his father's love by serving him conscientiously, for example, by hunting game to put in his mouth, so Yitzchak could eat fresh and tasty meat. Yaakov, however, was morally wholesome, saying what he thought and never being a duplicitous, and spending all his time in the studies tents of shame and ever. So we have two personalities going on here, Esav and Yaakov. Esav being an Ish Yodei Tzayid, Ish Sadeh, a hunter. Yaakov an Ish Tam Yoshev Alim, a person involved in the study, a wholesome type of person. And the following pasuk tells us how the parents related to each child differently. That Yitzchak loved Esav, and there's a reason given, ki tzayid befiv, because there was game in his mouth. There was a trap, either literal or figurative, that Esav planted for Yitzchak. And Rivka ohevet et Yaakov. And Rivka loved Yaakov. So we need to understand quite a number of questions. Some will answer more in depth than others. But how is it possible that one parent is loving one child over the other? Does that mean that Yitzchak didn't love Yaakov and Rivka didn't love Esav? Is that what the Torah is trying to say here? How do we explain, and this is question in source 2, the past tense of Yitzchak vayahav, he loved, while Rivka's love is in the present tense? And perhaps the greatest of the questions found in source number 4. It's kol enyana yachas shel Yitzchak Avinu el Esav hu begeder taluma. The whole way that Yitzchak Avinu treats Esav is mysterious. Sheinani ten elav anava mabata shitchi shelanu. We don't understand it in our superficial view. Afilu im naniach shelo yada Yitzchak amal alav madaim shel Esav. Even if we say that Yitzchak Avinu was unaware of how Esav behaved, but that's hard to say. Hello, kol yeled yachol lavchin be'avdel bolei kol kach sheben Yaakov le'Esav. Any even child could tell you the difference between the two. Madua hedif et isha sadeh. So let's say, granted, he didn't know how much of a rasha Esav was. Nevertheless, why does Yitzchak Avinu Ma'adif, that he favors the Isha Sadeh, Gamim Ukashal Mahadrin, Al Pnei Ishtam Yoshev Alim, over Yaakov Avinu, by wanting to give the brachas to Yitzchak, the brachas Yitzchak wanted to give to Esav and not to Yaakov Avinu. How do we understand this preferential treatment that seems that Yitzchak is showing Esav, even if he didn't know he was a rasha? But how can you compare someone who's involved in hunting to someone who's involved in sitting in the all of Torah, in the tents of Torah? So before we even begin our study, and I like to use it as a survey, as a continuum, from really one end to the other of different possibilities and variations, I like to preface our remarks with an insight of Rav Nebenzahl on his Sichos, the Sefer Breshit. And this preface is not only applicable in this case, it's applicable in one's study of Chumash throughout. He says, Akodem shenadaber, in source 5, Batamazu, Nakdim, we need to preface, Sha'anu omdim ledaber ba'nashim gdolim. We're talking here about great people. Anashim Shehei Mamudei Haolam V'Yisodav. We're talking about the forefathers who are the foundation of the world. We have no inkling of what they were thinking. We have no understanding of what they were doing. Continuing the next paragraph, nevertheless, since Torah was written for us and not for the angels, and since that it's imperative for us to study every letter in the Torah, based on our level, what we're talking about here is the lessons that we derive from the Parsha. Obviously, we're understanding here, we're obviously not critiquing or judging in any